Welcome to Being James Bond, the longest-running James Bond podcast in the world.
Good morning. How are you doing? It's your good buddy, head of section, Joseph Darlington. This is Being James Bond, and I am just kind of waking up. I'm only on my second coffee, but I wanted to do this early. Welcome to Being James Bond, and I want to tell you about my absolutely, positively incredible weekend in London. So many little stories. The whole thing was so incredibly eventful from the time I landed until the time I left. And you could tell by my voice, I'm still kind of just sort of waking up and still kind of craggly. My wife is telling me to make sure I pound the vitamin C, so I don't get sick from all the flight and everything. But anyway, yeah, wow, what a weekend in London this was. The big events, obviously, was the launch of Being James Bond Volume 2, and, of course, the concert, the Cue the Music concert spectacular on Sunday with the 3 Moneypennys, and everything absolutely positively exceeded expectations. And I again, I don't say things just to sound, positive and fluffed up. I can honestly tell you everything easily, completely blew away my expectations. My expectations were already high. So, but everything over delivered. It was absolutely positively amazing. And again, like I said, there's so many small little stories. So it's hard to even figure out like which ones, to sort of pick out and highlight. So I'll just kind of wing it. And I hope you will enjoy the ride. So, so I left, and I'll tell you what, I need to take a lesson from Joe Silock, the Bond enthusiast, and really take more time. I said to myself, I'm thinking in my head, I'm too busy with work. I can't really take the luxury of taking too much time, but I really need to sort of pad things a little bit better, so I do have a little more time to just hang around, do things. But basically, I kind of hit the ground running Friday morning when I arrived, and was kind of just going crazy nonstop until the time I got on the plane. So yeah, so I left Newark Airport Thursday evening, landing 5 a.m. Friday. And David Dritsky and I have obviously been talking for a while about the trip and plans, and Dave had a pretty full agenda Friday and asked if I could help him film a few things. I said, of course, absolutely. So yeah, we hit the ground at 5 a.m. and by 10 a.m. we were at our first stop. And it was funny, I'm thinking I'm landing at 5 a.m. I'm going to have 5 hours to kill. By the time we got back to we got to our hotel to drop off our bags, and then it was already like 9 o'clock, so we were off and running pretty early. So without getting into great detail of that day, because I know David has some great content he will be putting out shortly from the day. So I'll just say that David, we had a great afternoon, and David was actually very generous with me. And again, I'll save that until his videos come out. But just for now, I'll just say thank you, David. I had a great day, and thank you for the generosity. So I really did have a wonderful time. Thank you. And again, more on that later. So let me back up a little bit, because I need to tell you that story before I can tell you this story. So as you probably know, I did my review of 007 Road to a Million Season 2, finally got able to watch the show, really enjoyed the hell out of it. And of course, I had some funny things to say about some of the people in the show. One of my favorites was Alex, who I kind of, maybe been a tiny bit harsh in my description. I picked on Alex a little bit. Basically saying, I said, he was so funny because he was always saying, oh, I can do this and I can do that, so he was always kind of fluffing himself up a little bit, and I was sort of making fun of the fact that some of the things didn't pan out the way he planned. So again, I don't think I said anything that was too cruel, but I could have been a little harsh if I thought about it. Anyway, so the next day, after the podcast comes out, I'm on the phone with Dave Zaritsky, and he says, "Oh, by the way, I loved your podcast about the show." I said, "Oh, thank you." And he goes, "Well, guess who else heard it and got a kick out of it was Alex." I said, "Wait, what?" So he says, "Yeah, Alex heard your podcast where you basically ripped him a new one." And I'm like, "Wait, come on, you're joking, right? They don't listen to my." "Oh yeah, they do. They know who you are and they listen to your stuff." So all of a sudden, I'm like, "You have to be kidding!" Like, now I'm so embarrassed that I said to him, I said, "Listen, I don't think that I cater. I think I'm pretty honest, and I don't think I would sort of." Reframe what I'm saying just to please someone. But honestly, if I thought there was any chance that somebody would have heard it, I would have been a little careful in how I said things, just to make sure I wasn't. And he said, "And guess who's going to be on the trip? Guess who you're going to see?" So sure enough, yeah. Well, so honestly, I'm just so embarrassed now. I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my goodness, I really, again, I'm trying to replay in my head what I actually said." So anyway, so again, Friday, David and I spent the day running around together. I'm looking like, looking like a guy that just got off an overnight flight and hasn't slept. But we finally got back to the hotel, got a chance to shower, clean up, and get dressed before an event in the evening, which happened at a place called Gray Flannel. And terrific clothing place. The guy's an expert tailor and had put together a custom suit for David in honor of the anniversary of GoldenEye. So it was a replica of the GoldenEye suit, and it looked obviously spectacular. So this was my first night to meet and greet with a lot of the people that I have not seen in years. It was absolutely wonderful. The last time I was in London was literally pre-COVID. It was for the Secret Cinema Casino Royale event. And so I got to meet and greet with a lot of the other Bond influencers that are across the pond over in the UK. Met Calvin for the first time, several other people. And so this was the first night that I'm finally getting a chance to see everybody again. It was a lot of people again anyway. And even Warren was there. Warren Ringham was there, and that shocked the hell out of me. And again, this is the first time I've seen Warren since I saw him in Switzerland in 2019 for the Honor Majesty's 50th. And of course, since then, Warren and I have got to be very good friends over the years. And I mean, just a terrific guy. So I get a tap on the shoulder, and there's Warren, and I'm like, "Oh my God," and we're hugging. I said, "Dude, I'm shocked you're here, because I would think you have so much to do for Sunday." And he said, "Yes, but I got a breather. Everything is basically in place at this point." So that was a nice treat to see him, and kind of relax before all the excitement of Sunday kicks in. So but so many other people I got to see. For quite a while, really good conversations and everything. So that was a wonderful kickoff to the weekend. So the place itself, again, as you can imagine, it's a small shop in London, so there's not a lot of wiggle room to walk around. And when you first walk in the door, it's a very small room, and they had a table set aside for drinks, and I'm standing there, waiting to get a drink. So I'm basically like 3 feet from the front door. Well, who walks in the door? I look over, and Alex comes walking in the door, and I'm basically the first person he sees, and I'm just like, "Oh boy," and I'm cringing, and I'm saying, "Oh my goodness." So, but yeah, I went over and said hello, and so I met Alex and Rob that night. And honestly, they could not have been nicer guys. Very, very nice. And again, Rob didn't rake me over the coals too bad. Could not have been nicer guys. And Alex didn't rake me over the coals too bad for my commentary. They were very, very nice guys. And again, they're just like how you saw in the show. I mean, the mannerisms, how they speak is all exactly the same. So yeah, it was really great. But again, I felt like we had really interesting conversations about the show, which I might say for another day, but basically they were talking about how the show took 6 months, even though it seems like it took like a really hectic week or two. That the fact that they would actually go, get the call, get on a plane, go do the challenge, then come back home. And it could be a couple days, it could be weeks before they get the call again for the next challenge. So where it looks like, they're getting on a plane from Mexico to go straight over to the Bahamas, in reality, they're going to do their thing, and then they go home, and then weeks could go by. And in fact, Alex had even mentioned, he said, we actually took like a week holiday in between one of the some of the events. But yeah, so the rest of the evening was fantastic. And again, the place was called Gray Flannel on Chilton Street. Again, a fine tailor, and please go give them a visit. And again, thank you, David, for the invite to this event. It was not a ton of us, but it was plenty of us to fill the space. And again, I got to mingle with some old friends that I haven't seen in years. After David and I went to dinner with the owner and his partner, and very, very nice guys. I really did enjoy the conversation very much. We had a really nice dinner, and but of course, by the towards the end, my eyes were starting to close. Like I'm literally starting to doze off at the table, so it was time to get back. So Saturday morning, I got to sleep in a little bit, and probably a little too much. In fact, David had told me, David Zrisky and I stayed at the same hotel. I asked him where he was staying, and I made sure that we were in the same spots to make things easier. So he told me Friday night that he was going to meet AJ and his writing partner Matthew Field. They were gonna stop by the hotel for coffee. I think he said around 8:30, and of course my eyes open at 9:30, and I'm like, oh brother. So I text David. I said, are you guys still around? He goes, yes, come down now. So I just jumped up, threw a shirt on, and went downstairs. And I got to meet Matthew Field for the first time, which was wonderful. Very, very nice guy. And of course, AJ I know very well now, and I was very, always very happy to see him again. So we got to sit around and chit chat for a little while. It was great. And the timing was perfect because David was running out to another appointment. So by the time I ran down and sat down, David had to hop up. So the three of us got a chance to sort of chit chat for a while. And that was great. I mean, we had a really good, really interesting chat. And it was nice to meet Matt for the first time. So we had coffee real quick. It was nice. Then I was headed off to meet Mark Woldridge, Views from Mark. And he had reached out earlier and said, hey, what's your schedule like? And I knew he was not going to be able to make a lot of the events, so I wanted to make sure that I saw him. So we ended up we met for coffee. Very, very nice chat. I love seeing Mark. He's been to New York a couple times, and we always make sure to get together when he's here. And so we met for coffee, chit chatted for a little while, got to relax, and it was a nice way to kind of kick off the day, quietly. Very nice place. We sat outdoors. It was very nice, and coffee turned into, well, what are you doing for lunch? And I'm sort of looking at my watch, saying like, oh yeah, I guess it is getting to be lunchtime already. So he was going to meet another fan, and so I was meeting him for the first time too. Very nice guy, John Kahlo. And the three of us went to, so this was funny. So Mark, he says, we're going for lunch. Do you want to come? I said, sure. Where are you headed? And he's describing this place to me that very much sounds like what I would call a Texas Roadhouse. And he says it's right across the street from Rules. Now I've never been to Rules. Even though I write about it in my book, I know it's a big famous Bond haunt at this point because obviously it was in the film. It's M's favorite restaurant. So I was sort of joking with him. I said, so why not Rules if you're gonna go over in that direction? And he just said, oh, I just happen to really like this place. So I said, all right, yeah, I'm game. So of course we go, and then it's literally right across the street from Rules, and we walk in, and I hear country music playing, and I'm like, this is funny. I said, I come all the way to London to go to a Texas Roadhouse for lunch, but it was a really nice place. It was very cool, and it hit the spot. And I was purposely saying to myself, I have no idea. This is the day of the book launch, and I know from previous events, I said I probably will not even get a minute to eat anything. So let me kind of load up on some protein now. So yeah, I had a surf and turf, and so I was feeling pretty full, which kind of got me through the day. So again, that was really nice. It was always great to see Mark. So basically, it was time to rush back to the hotel and grab my stuff and head over to where the event's going to be. And so here I am with a massive suitcase loaded up with books, and I have to schlep them over to the event at the Morpeth Arms right across the river from MI6. So, and I think I mentioned before that I had a bit of a fiasco with the books. So I was really, when we did the launch over here for the redo of Volume 1, we knew where the event was going to be, and people had sort of, pre-ordered or RSVP'd before the event. So we had a good idea of how many people were coming. So I had a pretty good idea of how many books to bring. I think I brought like little extra. So I had a little sense of how many books to have. This one I had absolutely no idea. I had really no clue how many people would be at this event, how many books I would need, etc. So I brought 50 of the new edition, and I brought 20 of the Volume 1 redo. And without skipping ahead too far, I sold out very quickly. And honestly, David said to me afterwards, he said, if you brought 200 books, I think you would have sold 200 books. And I think that's probably true. So apologies to the people. In fact, there was one really nice guy, a nice couple, literally was there and plunked down their money. And then by the time we went to hand them a book, they were gone. So I had to give it back to him. And I said, dude, and by the way, make sure you send me an email because I am going to send you a book. So he knows who he is. So again, very nice guy. So, but yeah, so again, I'm fast forwarding a tiny bit, but we got there, got set up. So we got there, dropped the books off, set up, put them all out on the table. And then David and I ran over to Globetrotter, who was launching a new product. And again, it's beautiful. You guys all know Globetrotter, the luggage, and they have a connection with James Bond now. So they have like some James Bond themed luggage, which is absolutely spectacular. So if that's something that interests you, I would definitely check that out. So we were there for that event before we headed back over to Morpeth. Phil Dewars was there, and again, he's the president of the 007 JB fan club, and where he goes, the Bond actresses follow. So there were a couple Bond girls there, and that was a ton of fun. Got to get pictures with all of them. Very sweet, very, very absolutely wonderful people. So that was exciting. And of course, David and I had to sort of run out early because we have to get back to the Morpeth Arms before people start showing up. So we did. Long story short, the book launch was phenomenal and honestly blew my mind how many people were there, how many people came. So huge thanks to all the people that came to this, who I met, signed books, took pictures with. You guys were incredible. Thank you so much. A lot of people said I didn't even get a chance to get upstairs and buy a book. So again, like I said, I apologize, and I will make sure I am back there to sign any books that you have very soon. I think I will probably be back in London next year, but more on that later. But yeah, so to backtrack a tiny bit, David and I when we first got to the venue and dropped stuff off, David took one look at the room upstairs and he said, they told me this room could hold about 120 people. I do not see, I don't know where they're all going to go unless they're stacking them on top of each other. So the room was a little snug. It was not nearly as big as we thought it would be. So, but again, we kind of made do the best we could. David asked people to try to shuffle. I mean, David and I are literally standing on chairs now. When we spoke, we stood up on the chairs. He's telling people, please push in as far as you can, because not only did we fill the room, but we had a line going down the staircase and literally out the door. I mean, we had filled up the upstairs to capacity. The downstairs bar was full, and people were just all outside hanging around. And so, yeah, it was packed. So I spoke for a little while. In fact, I even cut it a little short because again, we had people just lined up and down the stairs. So we sort of had to move it along, try to get people in. So yeah, then it was time to sign books. And honestly, everyone was wonderful. Special shout out to my good friend Paul Lally, the president of the James Bond Club Ireland, who I had asked previously. I said, would you help me sort of be my money guy? You'll take the money for the book, slide it over to me. I asked him to, just write a name on a Post-it note, put it in there, because that's usually what I see done at all the book signings, and it's sort of worked fine in the past. Of course, I get there, and for some reason, the pens and the Post-it notes that I had brought got lost somewhere, so they weren't there. And I found out that London is quite literally a paperless society. Like they have almost completely given up carrying cash, which is interesting. I mean, I kind of found that a little fascinating, but for me, it's funny. I find myself being a little odd because I very rarely carry cash these days. I don't think about it. Everything is the card, of course. But usually if I'm going out, I always make sure to grab some cash before, because you never know if you're going to need to drop a tip or maybe pick up a quick round or something or other. So, yeah, when we got there, I just assumed, let's make it an even 20 pounds, because I just thought people would just sort of just throw down $20 pound bills, and we would keep things moving along. Most of the people were like, so where do I put my card? And it's oof. And so we really did scramble. So people were sending me PayPals. And again, I really threw Paul into the fire. I mean, it was complete chaos. I didn't help the situation at all with any of my planning. He handled everything. He handled it like a pro. And honestly, Paul, thank you so much. And yes, when we get together again, you will not have to buy your own pints for quite a while. Honestly, I really owe him a big one for this. So Paul, again, thank you so much. You were absolutely incredible. But yeah, the signing, it went quickly. We really did. I had 70 books there in total. I had 50 of volume 2, 20 of volume 1, and they went fast. They really did. And I was kind of shocked. I had this image of me having to drag books back to the States, and not at all. I mean, we honestly could have sold many more if I had again known in advance just how many people would be there. But honestly, the turnout was absolutely spectacular, and again, everyone was wonderful who came. So huge thank you for everybody who was cramming into that room for this launch. It could not have gone better. It really did exceed my expectations. So big thanks. And of course, once the signing part was done, then I was able to kind of move around and mingle a little bit. Again, talk to a lot of people I haven't seen in a while. Met Dutch Bond fan for the first time, Jeroen, and his beautiful wife. And again, he and I have been talking for years, so it was fantastic to finally meet up. So he was there. Calvin was there. Got to see him and chat a bit. We got to spend some time together this weekend, which was absolutely wonderful. And I'm hoping next time, as I sort of said earlier, to try to do this with a little more time, a little more padding, so I can kind of have a little more down moments and talk to people more, and maybe a couple more dinners and whatever else. So I got to meet Dan, by the way, of Dylan and Dan, two of the contestants on the show. Very nice guy. Dan he's I don't know if you can tell, but very tall. He's the one with the eye patch. And his son was Dylan, who was a little autistic. So that was, again, we were kind of rooting for them a lot. But he was very nice, very, very nice. Came right up to me. We were talking for a little while. And, so hope to talk to him again in the future. Didn't get to meet Dylan. He was downstairs. I never made it upstairs. So hopefully I'll see them again in the future. But that was really cool. So, yeah, it was a lot of catching up with people, a lot of meeting people for the first time. And again, it's so weird, honestly, that this Instagram world that we live in. I swear, we need to make name tags for ourselves with, like, the picture of our avatar on it. So, because so many people are coming up and kind of like I predicted, well, we've been talking for months. I'm so-and-so on Instagram. Oh, okay. So, yeah, it was very cool. I mean, honestly, it was just wonderful. David does a spectacular gather-all. This one was no different. So again, the place is loaded with Bond fans. We're all mingling and talking. It was fantastic. And again, some people I see regularly who came over, but some people I have not seen in like 6 years. It was crazy. I mean, it was sort of like 2018, 2019 when it was between, we did the Secret Cinema I think that was like 2018, and then 2019 was the big On Her Majesty's 50th. So between those trips, I mean, I really made a lot of new friends and saw a lot of the Bond community. So it's been that long since I've seen a lot of these people. So it was absolutely, I mean, again, it was surreal being able to finally see these people again. And honestly, it's like those big superhero team ups in comics when you see everyone sort of coming together that you know and you know through social media, so you're sort of constantly in contact, but you never see them. So this was really great. It was such a terrific night. Of course, I didn't have enough sense to go home and go to sleep after this. All the Irish boys from the Irish fan club, James Bond Club Ireland, were going out afterwards. So, of course, I tagged along and tried to find places. I'm kind of shocked how early London closes. I mean, for a city as packed and bustling as this, it really does turn into a ghost town by midnight. So it was kind of interesting. So we ended up walking around trying to find a place to get another Guinness, and ended up in a casino. Had a couple before I went home. So, but again, great guys. I had a lot of fun hanging around. So thank you guys. And yes, once I get to Ireland with my wife, trust me, I will be in contact well in advance, so we can set something up. So we'll definitely do this again soon. So then it was Sunday. So Sunday, I slept in a bit, and honestly, I really do feel like Mr. Magoo at some of these things, because I forget like where I'm supposed to be, when, what time. So I wake up very late, slept in, and I didn't even get breakfast, and was sort of like, oh, I have to be somewhere at 1 o'clock. So I get up, shower, and it's time for the tux, get ready. And I head over to the Waldorf Hotel to meet up with everyone. The 1 o'clock, this is the day of the concert. This is the Cue the Music day. So 1 o'clock was the pre-show, and the pre-show already is absolutely spectacular. I walked into the hotel, had an envelope waiting for me at the desk with all my tickets and stuff. And again, I'll say it again, Warren, boy, did he take care of me for this trip. So again, thank you, Warren. But I'll gush some more later. The place was set up wonderfully. There were food. The food was there. It was catered. It was beautiful. They had some gambling tables set up, which was a lot of fun. And of course, the highlight was when you went in, there was the sit down interview with the three Moneypennys. And again, Warren gives me the treatment. Got to sit in the front row. I'm very close to everything. So David Zaritsky is interviewing all three Moneypennys, and it was a lot of fun. They were all they have a lot of great stories from their time as Moneypenny, and obviously it was Naomi Harris, who did 3 films with Daniel Craig, Samantha Bond, who did 4 films with Pierce Brosnan, and Caroline Bliss, who had done two films with Timothy Dalton, and who, by the way, has become almost the ambassador of Cue the Music. She's been very involved in a lot of their performances. She shows up she's been showing up for interviews and things for a lot of their shows. So she's very involved with the band. So that was wonderful. So she has kind of a built-in connection, and she sort of raved about how wonderful the band is and how she feels like part of the crew now. It was really nice. So again, all of them had really great stories. It was a lot of fun. Everybody laughed. Samantha Bond loves talking about filming the makeout scene with Pierce Brosnan from Die Another Day. It's a lot of fun. I know that this interview and a lot of most of the concert, I think, this interview was definitely filmed by Cue the Music. So I think it'll be available at some point in some way. So so keep an eye out for that. So yeah, so the day had already started out spectacular. And again, I'm sitting right in the front row. It was really great. So, but then it was time to move on to the next portion, and a select few of us, again, I got the VVIP treatment. We got to spend some one-on-one time with the Moneypennys. So a few of us went upstairs. It was a small little room with a couple chairs and tables and some couches, and the 3 actresses came in. And everybody was like, all right, go ahead, start mingling and talking. If you want to get things signed, go ahead, feel free. I'm standing there looking stupid because I was like, oh, I didn't really bring anything to get signed. I didn't really think about it. So I was like, well, that's okay. I'll just get pictures with all of them. And that's kind of really all I want anyway. So, and I did. And so basically, I sat down. Caroline Bliss was my first. I sat down and spoke with her for a while. And again, she was speaking very fondly of her involvement with the band and everything. She was very lovely. Spoke with her for a few minutes. Went over to Samantha Bond, got a picture, talked with her a little bit. She's a little more sassy, she's just talking about whatever's going on in the moment during the day. She's very kind, very nice. And then I went over to, so I had gone to Naomi Harris before. I sat with her really quickly, got a picture, and again, didn't want to be. I'll be honest with you. I never know what to say during these things. I will often go when actresses or Bond actors are doing an appearance someplace, and I always feel like a little weird, like I'm struggling for small talk. I don't really know what to say, so I sat down with Naomi Harris, took a picture, shook her hand, said thank you so much. It was very, very kind, and that was it. Well, Julian, who was there, Julian Digby, who was helping cue Cue the Music, do a lot of things. He was essentially the host that day, or one of the hosts, I guess. He asked me, he says, do you not have anything for them to sign? I said, I didn't bring anything. He says, hey, hold tight. So he gives me he hands me the program for the concert, and he says, here, go, go. And so I'm like, thank you. That was really, again, really, really thoughtful. He's watching out for me. So, so I went back and had them all sign. The program had pages on each actor. So I'm very much looking forward to reading through this program, by the way, because it was pretty packed with a lot of really interesting stuff. So, so I went down and had them sign everything. And I went back to Naomi Harris and asked her to sign it. And so now I'm sitting across from her at the small table. And there's nobody kind of waiting behind me. So we start chit-chatting. I have to tell you, Naomi Harris was so lovely. And I don't use that term often, but honestly, that's the one that comes to mind when I think of her now. She was absolutely positively lovely. I must have sat with her for at least 5 minutes before we had to sort of wrap up and move on. I walk away later saying to myself, I'm sitting with Naomi Harris. I'm sitting with Miss Moneypenny for the last 3 films. As far as we're concerned right now, the reigning Miss Moneypenny. I could have asked her anything I wanted. What are we talking about? She's asking me about me. And somehow, that's all it was. It was like she talks to you like you're the only person in the room. Like you are the most important person in that room. And she's asking me about work, family. So here I am going on and on about work, about my grandbabies and all that good stuff. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. So, she knows how to talk to people. She was just wonderful. And honestly, I cannot say enough nice things about her. She literally... Our eyes never lost contact. Like she is not looking around the room to see if there's anyone else she should be talking to. She was just that kind. So honestly, hats off. It was one of those moments, they say a lot, don't meet your heroes, but this was one of those moments where meet your hero. I mean, they were as nice, if not more so, in person, honestly. She was absolutely wonderful. So that was that part of the day. Then it came time to head over to the theater for the actual concert. So you've heard me rave about Cue the Music in the past. So how do I do it again without sounding repetitive? Honestly, people at this point probably think I'm being paid by Cue the Music to rave about them. I am absolutely not. And honestly, I every time you think they cannot outdo their last performance, they somehow manage to do it. So I have only seen Cue the Music, even though I've been for years now talking to Warren. We've become pretty close, and so I feel like I've known of them for years. Have heard a lot of their recordings, seen them on YouTube. I only saw them once live, was at Piz Gloria in 2019 when they did the On Her Majesty's 50th, and it was incredible. Honestly, and again, you've heard me rave about this performance before. I've said to Warren, Warren, I don't understand the language of music enough to tell you why this impresses me so much. But honestly, seeing you guys do things live, really, it's magical. It brings things to life. Like there are certain songs that I don't even care for. When I hear them do it, it's different. All of a sudden now I have an appreciation for it. And seeing the way they can do different things and put things together. I mean, it really was just sort of surreal. It's just magical the way they do it. So, and again, how do you possibly top seeing them on the On Her Majesty's 50th at Piz Gloria? I said, well, this will be the first time I've seen them in a proper concert setting. So I'll just say it once again. Honestly, they really surpassed expectation. The performance was wonderful. David Zaritsky was the MC, so he comes out, he's talking to the audience, and it was very fun. He tried to keep it interactive where he would ask questions, people would shout out answers, that sort of thing. And he's very funny, very good on his feet. I mean, David is just born to do this. So, and then, of course, they brought out several times during the concert the 3 Moneypennys. And that, again, that was a lot of fun. A lot of the questions I had seen, in the pre-show. So, but there was more than that too. They were talking more about other things. So again, they were wonderful. It was a lot of fun. It was great hearing them talk about their time with Bond, all of their experiences being very different. It was a lot of fun. They talk about how they were approached to play the role, etc. So again, really wonderful. And again, the musical performance was supernatural. It was so great. And I said to Warren afterwards, I said, it was so great to see you play. Like, there were certain things where, he's soloing on the trumpet. There's so many musical pieces that have a lot of trumpet, so he was playing for that. And I said, it's funny because I feel like I've gotten to know you so well as the manager of the band that I almost forget that you're a performer. And you were absolutely superb watching you play. And so he was terrific. The singers are absolutely spectacular. Carrie Bernard Schultz is just surreal when she sings. It's amazing how she can do all of the, and so she did all of the Bond songs, that have a female artist, but there were also other times when, like the Living Daylights, for example, and You Know My Name, they did them as duets, which I thought was fantastic. And ironically, the one song that is a duet, the famous Another Way to Die from Quantum, famously a duet, she did that solo, and it just made perfect sense to do it solo, because I've always sort of wondered that to me, that song has always been an oddity to me, why the two voices are so similar. It's like, why is that a duet? So anyway, but she did that one, and again, they have this magical way of taking songs that I don't care for and doing them in a way that I suddenly start to appreciate them. One of the ones that sort of made me sort of chuckle to myself was, they had talked about GoldenEye. This is the anniversary of GoldenEye, and they spoke about GoldenEye at great length. And then they said, and now we're going to play, the song from GoldenEye, and I'm ready for it. They say, the song from GoldenEye, The Experience of Love. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. So I was like, oh, that one, right? Okay, way to set me up. And then, but again, watching them do it gave me an appreciation for it that I never really had before. And and one of the things you have to sort of understand, like the great thing about the Bond music is that there's such a range. People who are doing these performances, they get to do brassy songs from the 60s, the songs from the 70s that were a little different, and then the 80s. I mean, you're going through 60 years of music, so you're playing a range of stuff. So you're not pigeonholed into one style of music, So you're playing a lot of different types of music, a lot of genres of music, frankly. So yeah, it was really great. So honestly, again, the performance was just absolutely stunning. Carrie is magnificent, and of course Matthew Walker, he's the male singer, and again, just amazing. I mean, like I said earlier, I keep saying this, and I wish I had the language of music to really explain this better, but the range of songs that they do, and to see them masterfully perform each song. Again, he is fantastic. He does so many of these Bond songs, and by the way, he can hold his note as long as Carrie. I mean, I was sort of marveled when Carrie sings. One of the things I said about the On Her Majesty's Trip, Carrie did Goldfinger. Now, again, we are how many feet above sea level? We are up in the mountains. The air is thin. There are people who are going down early, going back to the hotel early because the altitude makes you a little dizzy. And I'm thinking Carrie's not going to have the wind to do these songs, and she belts out Goldfinger and holds that note all the way to the end and then some, and it kind of blew my mind. Well, Matthew Walker does the same. He did Thunderball, and he held that last note longer than Tom Jones, honestly. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. So these people are consummate performers, and they're absolutely spectacular. So yeah, so that was honestly, I like I said, I feel like I've said as much as I can say about the concert. It was absolutely positively spectacular. And honestly, and I think I can say this, in fact, I'm quite literally checking my phone. I said to Warren, I said, by the way, this is public knowledge, right? Can I talk about it? He said, sure can. So as the concert was ending, there was sort of kind of like in the Marvel movies, how there's like a post-credit sequence that hooks you in for the next one. Well, Warren and David are out there talking, wrapping up, and they say, by the way, David says, so any hint on what you have planned for the future? Well, Warren says, yes, as a matter of fact, I can finally tell you what we have planned for next year. Long story short, he says we have a Bond performer who is pretty legendary, who is going to be joining us for a concert experience. and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, David Arnold." And David Arnold walks out onto the stage, and the crowd goes wild. And they talk about how, Warren reached out and, basically asked him, again, not knowing what kind of response he would get, but reached out to David Arnold saying, "Listen, would you be interested in putting something together?" And he said before he went downstairs to make coffee or whatever, he gets a ping, and there's a note from David Arnold saying, "Whatever it is, I'm in." So yeah, so basically, and I said, it's funny. It's been at least 6 years since I've been to London. Warren has asked me many times, can get over here. And I just couldn't do it with everything going on. And this trip, I reached out to him, and it was funny. So I reached out to Warren. This is probably last year, or maybe earlier this year. And, again, I drop notes to Warren here and there for different things. And then, so just kind of out of nowhere, I said, hey buddy, hey, how's everything going? He says to me, "Okay, cut the foreplay. Are you coming to this concert?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he's like, "Oh, this is great." So, and again, instantly I get the VIP treatment. So again, Warren is absolutely fantastic. So I'm sort of laughing, saying to myself, it took me 6 years to see them again. It looks like I'm coming back next year, because as soon as he said David Arnold is playing next year, I just said, "Take my money now." So yeah. So next year, I'm gonna guess around the same time. That's sort of, nothing is finalized yet, but next year, cue the music, and David Arnold will be putting together a concert. And again, I'm a huge fan of David Arnold's scores. So, like I said, take my money now. So I will almost definitely be there next year for that. As long as something doesn't crop up that I can't do it, that's my plan. So what a way to end this concert. Like I said, I keep saying, how are they going to surpass themselves? And they keep finding ways to do it. So, again, this performance was incredible. The band is incredible. I finally got to meet Carrie that night, and I got to gush a little bit and tell her just how spectacular I thought she was. Tell her that, they do songs that I don't even like, but she makes me love them. So yeah, honestly, just an incredible show, incredible night. And again, great people. After the concert was the after party, which, and again, what was nice about this day is that it started early. The day started early, so the concert happened, it was not late. It was at a reasonable hour. So, we did have a good amount of time at the after party, which went for a couple hours, and, everyone had just an incredible time. And again, a lot of mingling with people, notables, people I've seen around. I saw some, again, the fellas from Road to a Million were there. I saw Jen, who, and I didn't walk up to her, and I should have, but I saw Jen from season 1. She was there as well. Didn't get a chance to say hello, but she was there. And again, a ton of other people. And honestly, the night was so great, because, everybody I spoke to, I'm trying to think how to say that. There was not a lot of small talk. There was a little bit of that, but honestly, it very quickly moves into really good conversations. I mean, I'm talking to people. We're talking about where they are in life, what the struggle might be lately, moving past certain struggles. A lot of people ask me, "How did you lose so much weight?" And and by the way, I'll pat myself on the back. I was averaging about 220. I think at one point I had hit about 230 pounds. And I'll just say it. It was almost at a point, like, I didn't realize how fat I was until I decided to start losing. It was time to start losing this weight. And so I'm down to about 193 now. So I had a lot of people asking me about that. But yeah, people were talking about life stuff. We were talking about life things, what's going on in life, where you are these days. Had a really good conversation with Jorrit, James Bond Netherlands. I'll just say we had a really, really nice talk. And again, Jorrit, thank you for that. It was really great. And again, so many other people. You're not just chit-chatting about small talk. You're really having great conversations about great things. And it's probably something most people would not have guessed about this group, this community, is that, honestly, I can honestly say that it's not, we don't just sit around like dorks talking about James Bond all day. We're really good friends, and we just talk about life, and, so many good people, and people support each other, and everybody's always positive. It's really great. So again, I was swimming on cloud nine from this whole night. Still managed to get one last pint or two with the fellas from Ireland. So again, great hanging out with you guys. And I'm realizing how long I'm going on about this, so I guess I should try to wrap it up. Monday morning, I woke up and realized that I had left my suitcase over at the Morpeth Arms. So, in fact, I actually remembered for some reason in the middle of the concert, and it just popped into my head that I didn't grab my suitcase. I brought it. I have this big oversized Toomey suitcase that I used to bring over all the books. And I was so thrilled that I got rid of all the books. I don't have to bring anything home. Even the sign that I made a little sign with a picture of the book on it, gave it away to the last guy who didn't get one. Said, "Oh, I'm sorry," signed it and said, "Here, take this." So all of a sudden I realized, oh, I don't have a suitcase. So I had to get up. I took a tube over to the Morpeth Arms. The guy had it, gave it to me. Thank you. And then I had to taxi it back to the hotel and pack and then head over to the airport. So I didn't really get a lot of. I was going to try to walk around a little bit Monday morning before I had to leave, but I had to do that instead. So that was my Monday. Went to the airport, did reflections in a double bourbon, that whole thing, and just glowing about what a spectacular trip this was. And honestly, this really refreshed my batteries in a way that I desperately needed. In fact, I'll close out by getting a little reflective and say, last year I had a little bit of a breakthrough and really realized some things that I was sort of letting, I'm trying to think of how to say this, but I was sort of letting things slip by. I mean, honestly, going 5-6 years without any kind of a Bond trip is not who I am. That's not what I decided I wanted for myself, and it was time to be a little more aggressive in doing some things for myself. Obviously, family comes first, all that good stuff, and work and family. You can't not focus on these things, but you can't lose focus on yourself. So this was I had made the commitment last year. I said I'm doing at least one Bond trip this year. And David Zaritsky had said to me, he says, if you're thinking about one trip, this is the one I would probably do. And he was right. This was the one, and it was after that we decided to sort of incorporate the book launch with that. And yeah, this was the one not to miss, because honestly, because it's more than anything else, it's about reconnecting with the people that I have just so much affection for. It's amazing, and again, it was wonderful to get my own ego stroked a little bit, because I would, go to places and people are grabbing me saying, "Hey, love your stuff, love what you do." Even at the concert, like when I go to the Bond events, I know that people are there for that. But even the concert was there, people grab me, says, "Hey, shaking my hand, thank you, love what you do." So again, just really, really needed my batteries recharged in that respect. So, and I will definitely be making a point to do this a little more often in the future. So, well, that was my weekend, and my coffee's only halfway done because I'm blabbing about this whole thing. And just so you know, it's early Tuesday morning, and I told myself I was going to give myself Tuesday before I had to really get back and focus on work. So yeah, real life is right around the corner. It's going to kick in, and I need to focus again on real life stuff before I can get back to my Bond fun. But honestly, before this glow went away, I wanted to do this podcast and just shout out. And there's so many, again, I saw so many people, and I mentioned a lot of people. There's so many people I haven't even mentioned. Like I said, this whole trip was filled with fun little stories, and I'm kind of giving you the overview. But yeah, so many great people that I met. I'm a big hugger. I'm shaking hands, hugging everybody. We're just a really wonderful time. And honestly, I can't say thank you enough to all the people who came up to me and said nice things and bought books, and so thank you all for all of it. And again, I always struggle now to find words for, I feel like we overuse the Bond community word sometimes a little bit. And then, how do you describe the passion you have for James Bond? We call it a hobby, but isn't it a little more than that? It's a lot more than that. So, but yeah, but all of it, it wouldn't be this much fun. It wouldn't be so satisfying if it weren't for the great people that I meet along the way. That is the bottom line. Is the reason why my passion for this stays as strong as it does. It's about the people. It really is. I love just traveling and meeting these great people that I only get to see once every few years. It's just supernatural. It's so wonderful. And again, I can't say thank you to people enough. So it really brings this whole thing to a different level, and I absolutely positively love it. So thank you again. Thank you so much to everybody who was around this weekend. And by the way, huge shout out to Dave Zaritsky. As you can imagine, again, he's doing all the setup stuff. He puts the gather all together. He's the one who tells me, hey, do you want to do the book launch? So all I got to do is show up with books. Made it very easy. So huge thanks to David for all the setup and the connections and all that good stuff. Again, I probably wouldn't get to do half the stuff I did if it wasn't for him and again, creating all these wonderful events and experiences. And so huge shout out to David. Thank you as always, my friend. And I will take a breath, take a break, and I will wrap up. So again, thank you guys all. Thank you for everything. It was a tremendous weekend, wildly surpassed expectations. It was great. I hope this podcast wasn't too long-winded. And again, I will see you as always at the next one. So guys, again, I will see you all next year. A lot of the folks that I saw this year, I'm pretty sure, like I said, unless something happens. And to everybody else, I will be back with another podcast very soon. And by the way, as I said to a few people, I said, I spent this whole year has basically been focused on getting these 2 books finished, completed, perfected, and put together. So now that I'm done, I think I can finally get around to a video or 2, something things that I've been pushing off for a little while. So yeah, hopefully some more content, and got to live up to expectations, I think. So again, thank you guys as always, and keep living like James Bond, and I will see you all at the next one. Take care.